Hi everyone. So here we are on day 137 without a wheelchair, thanks to the combined efforts of British Airways and London City Airport. Both of them damaged my wheelchair on October 19th, 2015, and have yet to provide me with a temporary replacement. Today we're going to talk about air travel law. Definitely something that I never saw myself getting into, but is turning out to be the crux of this whole fiasco between London City Airport, British Airways, and myself. So, I need you to go back with me to 1999, which is when a piece of legislation was passed called the Montreal Convention. Now, the Montreal Convention is important to all of us, regardless of whether or not we have a disability, because it states how much airlines, not airports, airlines are liable in the event of death, loss to damaged property, injury, and the like. For this case, we're going to focus on lost and damaged property. The Montreal Convention limits the amount the airline is liable if property is lost or damaged to about £1,200. That means that if you had £5,000 worth of couture in your suitcase and they lost it, they would only give you £1,200 back, which is ridiculous, unless you take out a special declaration of interest. Now, what's interesting about this is the EU courts have been trying for several years to force airlines to tell you about a special declaration of interest the moment you check in. This way you would know that the airline would be limited in how much they can compensate you for lost or damaged property, and you could override it with this special declaration of interest. The airport lobbyists, who I am hereby calling the an airline mafia or the air travel mafia, have done everything possible to keep this regulation from getting passed because it obviously puts them at a financial disadvantage, and hey, they would need to be much more responsible with your stuff. Now, here's the kicker. In 2006, the European Union made a rule saying that the Montreal Convention does not apply to... No, let me try this again. I need to get my wording here. In 2006, the EU court made a rule saying that if mobility equipment is lost or damaged while in the course of air travel, that mobility equipment has to be compensated and replaced. So now you've got two laws that go in direct contrast to each other. And here's the rub of the case. What's even more interesting is London City Airport immediately shoved off the blame onto British Airways in my case. Now, airports are still liable if they don't follow the EU legislation in 2006. But by shoving off the blame of what happened to me onto the airline of British Airways, they have essentially put the Montreal Convention back on the table because the Montreal Convention protects and limits the liability of airlines. Very tricky London City Airport. One would even say well played had it not been so blatantly obvious. London City Airport and BA violated the EU regulation of 2006 on several different levels. From the moment we called British Airways to tell them that I was coming and bringing in my wheelchair to the moment I was taken off the plane. In fact, it is the EU regulation of 2006 that also requires that London City Airport provides me with a temporary replacement wheelchair while this is being sorted out. And here we are, 137 days later, no temporary replacement chair, no appropriate compensation from either BA or London City Airport, and just a mess. Nice, huh? Lawmakers need to realize that just because a regulation is set in place or a law is made, it doesn't negate the previous laws. I can't help but wonder what those who passed the EU regulation in 2006 were thinking. Would they just figure that the airlines would let go of the Montreal Convention and pretend like it didn't matter in the case of people needing special assistance? Or did they know what they were doing, basically creating a crippled regulation that was fundamentally useless? It doesn't take a brilliant lawmaker, and I'm certainly not one of those, nor do I have any legal training, to realize that when you have two pieces of legislature directly contradicting each other, going in opposite directions, you have grounds for conflict. And that is where we are now.